Hello, and welcome to another episode of Hacking with Friends. My name is Cody Kinsey. I am a security researcher with Varonis, and today I have Nick Godshall, the co-host of the Null Byte series, here to teach us more about AndroidStudio hacking and how to get started hacking with Android devices when you don't have any. Nick, thank you for joining us again.
Yeah, I'm glad to be here. This is like the third week in a row, but it's very exciting to come back.
Yeah, so this is probably my favorite series, again, because if you want to get into bug bounties and getting into the sort of like web application slash application pen testing, this is a great way to get started because a lot of these skills cross over into web application pen testing. So if you're looking to do that, then you'll find a lot of the same skills are involved here. So we've already gone through a couple really great examples of how to set this up, how to get started with some of the earlier challenges. So if you want to start on the beginner level, please make sure to check out some of our other recorded streams on hackingwithfriends.com or on YouTube at Security Forward, that's Security FWD, and you'll find a convenient playlist with all these together. So if you get confused on the stream, do not worry about it. You'll be able to go back and watch Nick and I explain it. So yeah, without further ado, Nick, what are we going to take a look at today, and why might someone be interested in learning it?
Yeah, so this is the third stream, and it should be the final in a series of learning, one, how to emulate an Android device on your computer so you can practice exploiting it. And then we're using a purposefully malformed app called Diva, which has a lot of different test cases so you can test exploiting an Android app on your phone or on this virtual phone.
And this is, I was going to say, and this is for total beginners. These are some of the most common kind of low-hanging fruit style vulnerabilities you would expect to see in an application with poor design. So these are not just random examples. These are actually really good examples of real-world vulnerabilities that you'll see in web applications and Android applications. So some of these even deal with things as simple as SQL injection. So these are very fundamental things to learn, and it's a really excellent way to try this out in a legal and safe way. We constantly get asked, like, why are you guys teaching people how to hack? Like, what if they go do something illegal? Well, we are also providing a legal way of doing all this stuff. So if you have a computer that's capable of running AndroidStudio, you can emulate an Android device that you can do anything you want with, and that's super cool.
Yeah, and there's tons of completely legitimate, like, good people that are looking for bugs, because if they're the ones who find the bugs before, more people with more bad intentions find the bugs, then they can report it responsibly to the developers who make the app, and they can fix it completely undisclosed to the public, so no one's able to really exploit that bug.
Right. So if this was something where you went through some of the challenges that we're showing off in this series and you really enjoyed them, the next step might be doing like some bug bounty work with let's see, Bugcrowd or Hackeroni, perhaps. Any one of those two organizations are really good about not only guiding you through getting through your first bug bounty, but also how to do responsible disclosure. Because the one thing we don't really talk about is how to disclose the stuff when you do find an issue. So that is outside the scope of our conversation today. If you want to learn more about that, then you can certainly do that at Bugcrowd or Hackeroni, or sometimes known as HackerOne. Anyway, so again, this is definitely something you can use to get started with a career in hacking, even if you don't have a lot of programming experience. So I really appreciate that this is now a pretty complete series going through all the challenges that Diva has to offer, which again, for anyone just getting here, is a deliberately vulnerable application that we're going to practice hacking on the stream.
Yeah, and just to specify, it's like emulating a vulnerable like app. So the Android operating system that's running on top of is still normal. The only thing a little bit weird about this emulated device is that it's rooted, but that just makes some of the challenges a little easier to show off during this like limited time frame. But yeah, a lot of these, I really like Diva because it comes with 13 different challenges, and they really give you a wide showcase of the different types of bugs that can be present on an app. And it's also, it can be fun and like interesting to go through it, even if you just want to develop your own apps, because you can watch out for common mistakes that are made during app development and make sure you don't make those mistakes when you develop and publish your own app.
That's really great. And I mean, another way you could go about it is if you're getting started with this and you want to know the first things you should be checking for vulnerabilities when you get started, just checking out an app to see if it's secure, then this will teach you some of the things that are very, very commonly forgot and give you a mental checklist of where you should get started when looking for common vulnerabilities that can be exploited. Because a lot of these can be used to either get maybe deeper into the phone or more access that you're not supposed to get into, or even get access to credentials or other things that might allow you to log in as someone else. So all of this is very, very useful. And I think that going from the beginning to the end of the series would be great for anybody who wants to get into this stuff.
Yeah. So just to catch anybody up, if we can go to my screen, we can go ahead and dive right in. So far earlier in the series, we've gone over AndroidStudio and how to create a virtual device with it. It's very straightforward. You just go to the AVD manager down here, and you can go ahead and create a new device. And this is my virtual Android device running right here. And we've also gone over a few separate tools that are necessary for interacting with the phone at a more fundamental level. So obviously the command line, and we're using a tool called Android Debug Bridge, or ADB, and this is provided for free by Google. And this just allows you to basically create a shell for the phone, so you can do some command line interface stuff with it and interact with it more easily.
One thing I would also want to note is if you have a macOS system like I do, this does not work out of the box on macOS Big Sur. I found that it worked just fine on my other system that wasn't updated, but when I tried to follow along with Nick on a previous stream, it just dropped a mysterious error and would not load. So just a little piece of advice, don't update your macOS system right now if you want to be able to run AndroidStudio. Like
the emulator's not working. Yeah, Big Sur's, I saw the software that my school was using was also running into a lot of trouble with Big Sur, so it's causing some issues. So besides the command line tools that we went over, and we're going to actually learn about one more tool later in the stream that we haven't covered before. And then besides that, we've gone over this tool called JADX or JADX. I don't know how to pronounce it, but it's basically a reverse engineering program that takes a .apk file. In this case, it's the .apk file that is used to run the Diva app, and it does its best to decompile the code into more readable Java code. And so that has been really useful for a lot of the earlier challenges, and either like some passwords or some API tokens were left hard-coded inside of the source code, or it allowed us to find where an issue might be and allow us to exploit that issue. So that's been another fundamental tool to this whole process.
And for people who are asking, like, what this is, like, what file format there is, wasn't this converting like a DEX file or something?
Yeah, so an APK file is just a bunch of DEX files compressed together. And so it's just taking the APK file and all the DEX files that make it and turning it into Java classes.
Right. So some people were asking, like, is this reversing? Like, what is it? Yeah, it is reversing. Specifically, it's reversing these DEX files into easier to understand JavaScript?
Yes. Yeah, Java classes. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Exactly. So we've gone over most of these. I've tried to skip some of the ones that are really samey. But today we're going to go over two more challenges, which is number 9, access control part 1, and number 11, access control part 3. And so these are dealing with, obviously, like gaining access to either information the phone doesn't want us, or that we should need like a prior password for, or we're going to learn how to interact with the phone in a more, we're going to learn how to control the phone from a command line to bypass some steps that you would normally have to go through if you're just using your fingers on the phone.
Interesting. Okay.
So we can just dive right in. And number 9, access control issue part 1. So right now we're allowed to, on this app, we can press this button inside the app, and it allows us to view API credentials. So this can be simulating anything on an app. Basically, there's a button you have to press on the phone in order to see some information. So this can be a problem if you, say, have to use a password to get onto that app, or you don't actually have physical control over that app. You can't just press the app with your phone. And as far as we know, there's no way to really control the phone via the command line. All we've really seen so far is how to dig through the files and maybe pull some files off the phone with the command line. But there actually is, built into the Android Debug Bridge, there is methods to launch certain activities on the apps.
Okay.
So if we go back to JADX, which is our decompilation tool with the GUI, then we can dig into this file. Okay, so let me show how it would be when you first open up JADX. Oops, not like that. So when you first open up JADX, it's going to look something like this. All the trees on the left-hand side are going to be closed. And so up here in our source code, obviously this is our code for all of the different Java classes that I was going through a little earlier. But if you go down here, the Android manifest.xml file, and every single Android app has an Android manifest.xml. It's called the same thing, and it does pretty much the same thing. It's basically a collection of all the different, as far as I understand, all the different activities that can be performed on the app, has different permissions and stuff like that. So it's a fundamental file that just by scanning it, you can learn a lot about how the app works. So like I said, this app is, this file is you can't make an Android app without this file. It's fundamental to it. So it has a variety of things, like right here, this is the part that like opens the app. And it's hidden behind these things called intent filters. And so what intent filters do is it only allows, basically it locks an activity behind a certain type of action or intent. So in this case, the intent is actually clicking a button or like clicking the app, and then it'll take you to, once you complete that intent, it'll complete the action, in this case, going to the main screen.
Okay.
So we can invoke this intent. One, you could just press the app on your home screen, and then it'll invoke this intent and complete this action. But you can also use the command line to invoke some action. So we're going to learn how to do that right now.
Okay.
So if we open up our command line, and we'll use the ADB shell. So I just have to refer to my notes. So ADB shell is usually how we've been able to get to the shell for the phone, and we've been able to see all the files that are stored on the phone. But we can exit out of the shell right now. So we'll do ADB shell, and then we're going to type in AM for activity manager, I believe it might be action manager. And then we're going to start. We're going to start the name Jakar. So we need the name of the app, which in this case is jakar.asim.diva. And we're going to need the name of the action, so tac A, and we're going to just use this right here. So android.intent.action.main, and that should work. So android.intent.action.main, and I think I have that set up right. And let's go ahead and pull the phone on the side. I'll go to the home screen, and if I run this code, okay.
Inaccessible or not found.
Inaccessible, yeah. Let me try one more thing. So if I do this instead without the tag. Oh, I also didn't put that. Okay, Diva.
So just to make sure I understand what's going on, what you're doing is digging around inside the app so you can find out ways to take programmatic shortcuts to do things that otherwise require user interaction. Yes. Okay.
Yes, so no, exactly. So actually, I'm going to go and put android.main activity. So main. If I pull the phone up, let's see if that works. Oh, why did I keep doing that? There should be a space here. Okay, I'm not sure why that one's not working, but I'll show the one that goes down to here. If we go down here, I don't know why this one didn't work. I wanted to.
You might be. I was gonna also say, like, I think, can you copy and paste between this? Because before you couldn't copy and paste because it was from the phone.
The copy and paste between here and there.
Yeah, I mean, if you needed to get a file path like perfect.
Yeah,
from,
yeah, I could. Yeah. I could do that.
That's how I correct a lot of my mistakes that I don't understand during live demos. Is I just copy and paste, and 80% of the time it'll just suddenly work, and I just never bother to like find out why it didn't work.
Let's see if I'm an 80% guy or 20% guy. Okay, give me a different error message at least. Activity not started.
Unable to resolve intent.
Let me try one more thing. So
yeah, no, this is good.
Nope, that's not what I meant to do. Okay, I don't know. I don't know what's going on with that, but I just wanted to show off that you can open apps using code. But we can go down here and we can skip to API credentials activity. And if you go to the source code, you can see that the corresponding code for that activity is API creds activity. And assuming my notes are right, I have the command that will actually make it work. So I'm not sure why it wasn't working with main, but if we run adb shell am start jakar.asim.diva/forward.api creds activity. So basically all I'm doing is copying the name of this action, and it's going to basically go into this action and complete that action to view the credentials. Then as long as my notes are right, it should work fine. Let me see if I have to open the app first. Okay, that's really weird.
Another error?
Yeah, let me double check. I have it right here. ADB shell am start. I don't think I need. Oh, okay. Start jakar.asim.diva/forward API creds activity. There we go. Yay. Okay, cool.
Whoa. Okay, cool.
Okay. So basically all I did is I'll just run it again because that did take a while. So I just did ADB Android Debug Bridge shell to open the shell, AM for activity manager, and then telling the activity manager to start this activity. And then we get the name of the exact activity right here. So this is the whole code or the XML code for that activity. And the name is right here, which is exactly what I copied. And then that basically, it's not tricking the phone, but it's doing the same exact thing programmatically, and just telling it to run this action, which is to view the credentials. And so I can try really quick and see if you can just run that from the home screen if the app's not open.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
Yeah. So even
Awesome.
if the app, well, potentially there could be faults where if the app is behind a pin or something, you might be able to try just run the command, and maybe the developers will not think, because that's like really stupid, but that could work, and it could just bypass all the issues you might run into. The app might, like the security questions or whatever, the app might put before it allows you to see some sensitive information. Or if you don't have physical control over the device, you can run actions like this. And for this, you don't need root. So it's actually kind of powerful.
That's super cool. And it also reminds me, there was something a while ago that allowed you to automatically export from your phone the information that Google was tracking on your locations. So like it ended up being a piece of user data that was useful to other people, that by kind of like getting the phone to just spit out this data that was stored in a specific location, you could view and interpret that information and see exactly where you've been. So, I mean, also obviously if an app was logging some sort of sensitive information insecurely, then this could be a really easy way to share a tool that just dumps access to this as soon as you connect to your phone.
Yeah, it's just another tool in your tool belt for interacting with the phone. And like, once you understand how to use something in the command line, there's all sorts of scripting possibilities that go on from there.
So in this case, we were just able to get the API credentials for the application, but of course that could be anything.
Yeah, it's any page that would normally be hard to access or you're unable to access, you can go ahead and try that and see if it'll take you there.
So for example, if you know that something's there by going through the code, but through the front end of the phone, like you can't access that information or it's more difficult, then this is the way you could get in through the back door once you know that it's in there.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool.
And now the command I was trying earlier is working, which is
of course.
Hilarious. Yeah, hilarious. I earlier, I just want to clear it up. Earlier, I'm pretty sure I didn't have this last / and I think that was screwing it up. So if you want to go back and see where I screwed up, it's probably this, and so don't make that mistake in the future. And I was also trying the TAC A and the TAC N I was trying for earlier, the TAC N is for the name of the activity, and the TAC A is the name of the action. In case you want to try that, I just wasn't using it exactly right. I'm not sure why. But yeah, that's the basic gist of this is you're able to invoke actions that normally you would think you could only do by interacting blindly with the phone, but it just, yeah, it allows you to interact with the phone from the command line, which is really cool.
So what's the next challenge?
Yeah, so that was a simpler one, just basically showing off how you can use this tool. This one is a little more involved. First, we're going to have to, there's some note, this is basically simulating like a notes. There's some notes on our phone, and it's behind a pin. But maybe there's a way to see what those notes are without using the pin. And it's a similar idea of where we're basically like giving the phone a direct command using the command line almost, and it just spits out the information because the developers weren't prepared for someone to use the phone that way.
Right. So, okay, this sounds like an interesting one because I feel like there's a lot of different applications that rely on just like programmatic controls and not actual encryption to prevent somebody from accessing certain parts of the program or certain saved data. So this could, I mean, this is also a really interesting attack because we're not trying to brute force the pin. We don't care about the pin. We're actually looking for ways that we can completely go around the pin and make the pin virtually useless for securing the information.
Yeah, like we're looking for like a backdoor of sorts. Like another way in.
Yeah.
So if you want to go ahead and give me a 4-digit PIN number, and we can go ahead and see those notes.
6969.
Okay, very creative. Oh, I wasn't in the phone. 6969, create. Okay, that is our PIN. And as we can see, if we go to our private notes, we type in our password, we can see our notes. And like it looks like you're a very busy person, but
yeah, it's extremely.
You have a slight drinking problem on the weekend. Okay, but so that our password is 69. If we try something like 1, 2, 3, 4, because I don't think, and it says, sorry, let me go back.
You just changed the PIN.
I changed the PIN. So if we go to the private notes and I try 1, 2, 3, 4, I did change it back. It is not letting us access the notes. It's saying to please provide a PIN. So like you're saying, we could try brute forcing it. I mean, there's only 9,000, or there's only 1,000 different 10,000 different possibilities. So what?
That was a wild range you threw out there, Nick.
Well, I was thinking 1,000, but yeah, there's only 10,000 possibilities. But still, I don't know. The app could put a limiter on it. You don't want to sit there all day just to see some stupid notes. So we can go ahead and look for a backdoor. So to do this, we're going to we are going to have to like look through the system files, but it's going to be a little bit easier to do it in the command line. Also, I kind of want to show off a different tool besides JotX because you might not want to use a GUI because sometimes GUIs can be a little bit limiting, even though it can be more accessible and make it easier for certain things. But instead of JotX, I'm going to show off this tool called APK tool. And I don't believe it's developed by Google, but it is used for a very similar purpose of decompiling APK files into more readable .smalley files and .jar files, I believe.
Dot what files?
.jars.
No, the first
Java
one.
files. SMALI. Smalley.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
you say that like I'm supposed to know what that is, but I've never heard of that file before. All right.
Yeah, no, I didn't hear about it. It's specifically, I think it's almost specifically for decompiled the DEX files. So it's very, very niche, and it's almost exclusively used by like Android hackers.
Okay.
So to use APK tool, or to install it, I'm going to show it off how to install on Windows because installing any command line tool on Windows is a little different for everything. So first you have to just copy and paste this little bat script, and then you can open it. You can even open it in Notepad, but I'm going to just use VS Code. And I'll open a new file. And we're going to save it. I'm going to save it for my desktop for convenience. And I'm going to save it as whatever it told me to save it. It tells you to save it as, the instructions are actually very, very helpful, but I'm going to just go through really quickly anyways. So it's telling us to save it as apktool.bat. And I'm going to save it to my desktop. And then we also have to download this we have to go to this link and download the newest version of APK tool. This is the Java file, the actual code.
And
And
.jar file, great.
And I'm gonna just dump that on my desktop. And it recommends renaming this just APK tool, because otherwise you would have to type in APK tool _ 2.50 every time you want to use the app in the command line.
Right.
And then all you have to do is take these files and drop it in your root Windows folder, so the C drive, and then just drop it in here. You're going to need administrator purposes or privileges. If you don't have administrator privileges on the computer you're using, you can always just run the APK tool from the directory that it's saved in, like any other like Bash program. It's just a little more convenient to dump it in here, because then you can just go to the command line and type in APK tool, and it'll work. So that's how you install it on Windows. I'm sure if you're on a Ubuntu, you'll just do an apt get and it'll all be over. But Windows makes anything command line a little more difficult. So that is APK tool, and it's essentially the same program as JOTX. It just doesn't have a GUI, and it just dumps the files it decompiles into a small directory and allows you to use the command line to sort through them, or like a file explorer.
Okay, that's useful.
So yeah, it's useful in its own right, especially if you want to like easily modify the files or like copy text out of it, stuff like that. So I'm just going to go to not programming, programs. This is where my Diva is installed to. And then let me. Oh, I don't need the jar file. So all you need the APK tool for, we're just going to really quickly decompile this APK file and see its source code. So to do that, you just use APK tool as long as it's installed in your Windows folder, and then just the name of the APK. And then we need to specify a name for the output, so I'm just going to call it Diva source.
That's so weird that there's no flag on that first D.
Yeah, right? That weirded me out. I thought it was like a typo in like the default, like in the documentation, I was like getting ready to email the developers. But no, yeah, it's just like that. And then we can go ahead and open the folder. Oh, not here. Documents, programs, and we have our Diva source code here, and it's almost exactly the same stuff that JOTX generated, but now we have the actual files on the computer. So how are we going to use this? So first we have to actually figure out how we could access the backdoor. So I'm going to go back to JOTX, because in this case the GUI is useful, but I swear we didn't just do all that for nothing. We are actually going to go ahead and use the code we decompiled. And we're going to go to our Android manifest.xml file, which basically is the skeleton that the entire app is based off of. And then we're going to go and find anything that's related to this Notes app. So if we can go to the source code, and we can go to input validation or access control 3 activity. And this doesn't have much useful information, but there's also access control 3 notes activity. And I'm seeing if there's anything useful. This doesn't tell us much. And so after I look, so basically this is how I would go through it. First, I would look at the Java class for that source code, see if that would give me anything. It would take me more time to look through the source code and see if there's anything wrong. But for the purpose of this 1 hour live stream, I'm going to go ahead and promise you that it's not obvious that anything is wrong by looking at the source code. So after that, I would go ahead and look at the XML manifest. So we're going to go ahead to there and look for anything related to either the access control part 3 or the notes. And it's going to be down here, I believe. Yeah, here is
line 97.
Notes provider, yeah.
Oh, yeah, and then also line 97 says access control 3 activity.
97, oh, right here. Okay, so it's skipping some. I don't know where it's hiding some stuff under here, because it skips some lines. Or was that line 36? I don't know what's going on. I think it's
whoa, yeah, no, it's different.
That's weird. Okay, so yeah, here's the notes provider, and remembering what I had to say. So right here, Android exported. What this tells you, this is like kind of deep into Android, like Java programming, but this is basically telling us that there is a content provider that is sourcing any data that the app may use, because as Android exported is true. If it was false, it would all be stored in that Java class, but now we know it's importing this this information, in this case, that note that stored, like all the stuff about what you're going to do that weekend, it is importing that from somewhere else.
Okay.
And the interesting thing to note about content providers is that they're classified with a URI, which is basically like a URL, and all content. I don't know if this is actually big enough to see. Let me open up that. Like a URL will start with HTTP or HTTPS to interface with websites or anything on the internet. But content providers will begin with content for colon and then 2 forward slashes. And so we're going to be looking inside the source code and seeing anything stored under a content URI. And we're then going to use that URI to see if the notes are stored in not just plain text, but in an easily accessible way.
Okay, so we're trying to find like a URI that leads back to information that we want to see.
Exactly.
Okay.
And we're by understanding how the URIs work and understanding that it's a content exporter, then we can drastically narrow down the types of URIs that we're looking for or looking at. So we're only looking for URIs that start with this content. So now we're going to go back into the code that we decompiled, and let's open up command line. Let's be fancy. And then we're going to go to Diva source. Diva source. And now we're going to go to the Smalley files, which, as I was saying, it's a niche file type that just means you decompiled something .dex into something more Java-like. And then the only 2 things are Android and Jakar, and so Android is any like default Android utilities, so we're going to go ahead and go to Jakar because that's more likely where the notes would be stored. I'm going to go to Asim because that's the only folder here. I'm going to go to Diva because it's the only folder here. And now we have a whole bunch of stuff, and like this should look very familiar. In case you need a little jogging of your memory, it's basically
the exact same file structure.
Exactly, it's all the same stuff here. And so now we're going to look at notes provider.smalley. So we're going to go to notes provider. Got a copy done. Why isn't the tab completing? Oh, no, because it's a file. That's why. Duh. So we can cat notes provider.
Nice.
But this is a whole bunch of stuff. So I would recommend that you don't use cat to look at it.
Yeah. Wait. Go back to it. What is it? That was terrible.
It's basically the source code, or it's a whole bunch of code, and it's not something you want to dig through using a terminal. So I'm going to use. You can open it up with Notepad, Notepad++. You could open it up with Vim or Nano if you're more comfortable with that. But I'm going to use VS Code. So I'm going to use code and then the name of the file. I've got to get rid of the cat. So now it's going to go ahead and open it up in VS Code, and now this is much more manageable.
If small.
Oh, yes. Let me zoom that in for everybody.
Thank you.
Is that more readable?
Perfect. Yeah.
Oops.
Easy to see.
Actually, okay. It made the GUI bigger too.
You can make it a little smaller than that.
Yeah. Let me. I can change the text size really quick. Give me 1 second, and I'll figure out how to make the text bigger. VS Code, make text bigger.
I'm gonna almost guarantee it's under the preferences. Under file.
It said the same exact thing. Yeah, when I did Command+, it just made everything bigger. Okay, so yeah, file, preferences, settings, font size. There we go. What you feel on 2024?
25.
25. Let's go 25.
Cool.
Okay. Is that good?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Okay, cool. So now, like I was saying, we're looking for anything with a, we're looking for any URIs. Oh, that's the wrong one. Yeah, that's provider. Make sure. Open the phone. Here. Okay, here we go. So now, like I was saying, we're looking for anything with the URI, and we're going to filter it to any URI that begins with content. So I just did an easy Control F, and I found this URI. So it's Chakara Seam. This is the basic file directory that we've been using for everything in the Diva app. But as we can see, it ends with a file that is called notes. So this might be where the notes are stored. So I'm going to just copy this to my clipboard, and it might be useful a little bit later. So,
cool. So that's the URI we were specifically looking for that could allow us to get backdoor access to a resource that this app is using.
Exactly. Yeah, this is basically, this is the URI. So this is the directory that the internal app is using to store the notes, or this is what I suspect it is. So if we go ahead and open a command line, and then we'll learn a new ADB tool. So we're going to use ADB shell, and then we're going to query. So basically, we're basically looking for something. So this is similar to the find command in Unix. And then we're going to specify that we're looking for a URI with tac URI. And then we're going to put the URI that we just copied in quotes. Make sure that you put it in quotes here. Query.
Inaccessible or not found.
Or not found. So it did not find that earlier. Try two things. I'm going to put single quotes, and I'm going to put two tags in front of URI. I can only put one.
Inaccessible or not found.
That's hilarious because it was working during testing.
It always does.
Yeah.
Just like the last one, too.
Yeah. The last one, well, I probably screwed up this one. ADB shell query. Did I spell query right?
Looks like it.
This is the right URI too, so it should be able to find it. This is very. Oh man, I felt so good going on this one. I was just testing it.
That's what doing it live has to impress upon you. Anything can happen no matter how many times you practice it, especially when it comes to technology.
I'm gonna take my command line off screen and I'm gonna look through my history really quickly.
Smart idea.
Because I copied and pasted it, but maybe I copied and pasted it wrong. Okay, PowerShell doesn't save multiple instances. That's fun.
Oh, that's so sad. Yeah. Every time I try to scroll up during my terminal instance and realize that it's been erased, I'm not happy.
Very sad, yeah. Oh man. If there's anything you have to say,
sure.
would be a great time.
I just didn't want to distract you, but yeah.
No, this is fine. I can focus on this right now.
This is exactly the kind of thing that you should expect to happen when you're doing bug bounties. Often things won't work for a long time, and then you'll find out that it's a typo, or something moved, or something's not running properly. So this is pretty much as real to life as it gets, especially when you're doing presentations and you've done it 3 times and it's worked every single time, and then you run it live and it just doesn't work. So this is the troubleshooting is part of the episode, I assure you. Aside from that, while Nick is figuring it out, we've also been talking about doing an episode on just web application pen testing. So if you want to check that out, or if you're interested in it becoming a episode or series that we do, then please let us know, because yeah, that's something that I think, again, we mentioned that it crosses over really well, and I don't know. I think that web application pen testing is a little bit more practical for people just getting started. Nick, did you find?
Yeah, that's why there's a smile on my face. But yeah, you're talking about like we're talking about like the juice shop, right?
Yeah, OWASP Juice Shop.
Yeah.
So if you
Yeah.
guys want to see like a continuation of the series where we go, because we're pretty much running out of challenges on this. If you want to see a continuation of the series, maybe on doing the web application pen testing version of this, then please let us know.
Yeah, because I was looking in the juice shop. I haven't gone too deep of a dive into it, but it seems like something I can learn, and I would really love to show that off because it's similar to this. It's just a different avenue.
Yeah, OWASP puts out a lot of really good tools. So if you're looking for other good web application pen testing tools, then OWASP is a great place to start.
Okay, so my problem was my notes are right. I just skipped the word. I don't know why. But we had to do, I just put query, but you had to specify content after shell. So just to highlight the issue, I'll go to my old one. Yeah, so I was just doing ADB shell query, but instead I had to do ADB shell content query to specify to ADB that I only want to look for content and none of that other garbage.
Got it. Okay, so yes, as we predicted, simply something of being omitted. If you're just getting started and you get frustrated because you saw it working on the stream and it's just not working for you, well, guess what? We make mistakes too very often, and this happens all the time. So don't get discouraged because even the professionals make mistakes.
Yes. The computer is very harsh and it expects like perfection.
Everything it does deliberately.
Yes. Yeah. It doesn't do anything on accident. So now if we go ahead and run this command, we can go ahead and see what the heck that content really is. And hey, look, it's all your classified notes.
Whoa.
Yes.
Well, I'm sorry. What is note row number 2?
Row 2? Oh, that's what your plans for the weekend are, is to drink a bunch of beer.
Maybe I'm afraid of a bear.
There's no A, though. There would have to be like a 4 right here.
Maybe I was panicking. I don't know. It seems like a weird note. Buy toys for baby. Ordered. Spend too much on home theater. I'm sorry. These are dad notes. I would know these kind of notes anyway. Anyway, these are dad notes that you've uncovered. I don't know whose notes these are, but these are some dad's notes.
He's got lunch with the CEO, though.
Oh, that's very fancy.
Yeah, well, very. I hope it's a virtual lunch.
Yeah, me too. Be safe. Whatever dad's notes we just hacked into by accident. Sorry about that. Wouldn't want anyone to know about your secret alternative days running, or that you had splurged too much on the home theater. Don't worry, we won't tell your wife.
So basically, this content URI, it's convenient when you're developing the app because you have this address that you're always going to know where it is, and if the user, you still think it's secure because you're putting it behind an if statement. If the user gives you the right PIN, then access this URI. But if someone knows their way around an Android phone, and especially around the Android command line, and you haven't properly encrypted that file, then they can just dig in and find it themselves.
So this kind of builds on the last one even, because here what we're doing is we're looking around to see where the content is stuck, and then we're just using the programmatic action of querying things from the phone to just pull that specific file. So the developer thought they were being so sneaky by making it so the content was stored in a place that's really not referenced anywhere unless you get in and look at the source code. But as soon as you do, then it's as simple as running a single command on the phone to go ahead and dump the content of this URI.
Yeah, exactly. It's when you store things like programmatically instead of like actually like being solid and encrypting everything and making sure it has like the proper channels to ensure that the identity has been verified, then stuff like this can happen.
So just to play devil's advocate, as a developer, like what would you have done differently to prevent this sort of attack?
100%. If any information has to be stored behind a PIN, then you're assuming that it's sensitive and you don't want anyone to see it unless they have that PIN, then I would encrypt this file for sure. And then instead of my app just blindly okay, the file is stored here in this URI, you would also have to give like a private key in order to unlock that encrypted file.
Yeah. There's a lot of different ways to make it so that the information isn't just stuck there out vulnerable, because the big issue with this is just making plain text data accessible on the phone to anybody who runs this particular command or happens to know where this URI is. And potentially, if this was a really common application we were attacking, you could develop a script that would just dump this information from any phone that was plugged in, which would be a really interesting use of this exploit.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and like a lot of these exploits are very similar, even if they have to use different tools or there's different paths to go about it. But it really shows you like a lot of the fundamental issues has to go with not encrypting information that should be encrypted.
Yeah, it seems like here it was really they attempted to pull off security by obscurity, and it ended up not working at all, because once you go digging around in the source code, these secrets aren't so secret anymore, and when they're not actually actually preventing anyone from seeing them, it's just a matter of doing the digging to find the location of these things. It's not actually inaccessible, really.
Yeah, exactly. It's you have to like know how to use certain tools and stuff, because there would be no way to really do it like while using the phone. You would have to use the command line. But as long as you know how to use ADB, which isn't that complicated, especially if you're comfortable with Unix shells, it's very similar, then it's not really a problem.
Yeah. Yeah, so that is a very practical way of learning how to get around access control when it's done weekly. So I think that this is a great beginning, just kind of general look at the way that access control can be circumvented, because it's not always, going into this, I was like, oh, cool, we're going to brute force the pin. But, that was not what we did. In the end, we didn't need to brute force the pin, because we just looked a little bit further into the source code, and we were able to see that, hey, like this information, the pin is kind of actually just a formality in the user interface. It's really not even necessary to get to the core content. It's just more convenient for the front-end user.
Yeah. And these were more simple examples, like just digging around the code, but there is some more advanced Android hacking stuff that could be covered as well, like some tools that are similar to Metasploit, like basically fully fledged like platforms for exploiting an Android phone that we could go over in the future as well.
All right. Well, if anybody would like to see that, then I'm sure, I'm kidding. Of course people want to see that. We've been getting questions about that like basically since the beginning. And now that we have an ethical testing ground, it seems like the perfect time to maybe go back and show what that looks like, and of course ways that you can defend against it.
Yeah, and like that allows you to accomplish much more. For like these past 3 live streams that we've done with Diva, I really like Diva because it teaches you a little bit about like app security and how apps can be insecure, but it also at the same time teaches you like the fundamental tools that you need, not only as an Android developer, but being able to poke around an Android phone. Like it teaches you the very basic fundamentals.
Yeah. So it kind of gives you the breadcrumbs to know like what to do with those tools, and also which tools are kind of essential to have in your arsenal as you get started looking for these sorts of vulnerabilities. Yeah,
exactly. Like you wouldn't be able to do network hacking without Nmap. It's like that's the fundamental tool that you need to base everything else off of before you can like, I don't want to like gatekeep, but like graduate to something like Metasploit,
Oh yeah, no, Metasploit is much more complicated. And if you don't know what a port is or what the default port for something is, it becomes a lot more difficult to use a tool if you don't have the underlying knowledge. So definitely.
Exactly. Yeah, and this is what I think Diva is a great tool for. Even though it hasn't been updated in a while, it's still relevant because I think this was developed and last updated in 2016. But these exploits are still relevant, and they still it still works on the newest versions of Android.
Yeah, no, I love that. And also, if you're emulating Android devices, it's worth mentioning you can pick from a whole different variety of different Android devices. So you don't have to pick the oldest one. You can also pick much newer ones, and I think that's really cool that you can emulate a range of devices if you want to try hacking a particular one.
Yeah, it's all the Google phones are like included by default. Like going back to like the early Nexus phones, which is really cool. And you can like even like use like Android like ice cream sandwich and stuff, like very, very old versions of Android. Just to, even if you're just, because I'm just like kind of an Android nerd, it's like fun to go and poke around and see what those old versions of Android used to look like. And I'm sure they are much easier to exploit than they are now too.
Yeah, and I'm sure they're also still out there kicking around with people using older devices that like can't update.
Yeah, and like I've shown it off before, but AndroidStudio even shows what % of the market is using that version of Android.
Yeah. Well, if you're developing an exploit, that's really good for knowing like how big your exploit could be you know, if it applies to a specific model of phone or a specific type of Android. So the statistics there are also really useful for knowing how broad a flaw might be if it only affects a certain version of Android, for example.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that's all we have for today. This has been a really good series. So if anybody wants to hear more from Nick, please make sure to shout out in the comments, both on YouTube and in the chat today. And Nick, if people want to see maybe more of your Nullbyte episodes or just generally follow you, what is your Twitter handle or the best way to follow you?
Yeah, you can find you can find most of my stuff on Twitter at Nick Godshall. I don't post much, but you'll see like the stuff I retweet. I retweet most of my work and stuff, so you can see where to find that there.
Cool. And of course, if you want to see some more great content on the Security Forward channel, you can also check out my coworker Mike show, which will get you ready for security certifications. And if you caught our recent collaboration with the Nullbyte channel, where we had on my sometimes co-host Killian, he also has his own channel, or his own show rather, on the Varonis brand channel called Threat Update that allows you to see all the threats that are out there going up against big businesses and what they're doing to stop them. So if you're interested in some more great cybersecurity content, make sure to check that out. That's all we have that's all the time we have for today. Again, if you have any ideas for episodes that Nick and I could do, possibly full-on Android exploitation, or maybe a little bit more poking around with web application exploitation rather than Android application exploitation, please let us know. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time. Bye.
Bye. Thank you, guys.